Molly Shannon, your role in Other People represents a dramatic change of pace for you. Uh, what attracted you to this part?
Well, I really related to it as a mother. I have two children myself. I have a boy and a girl, 11 and 13, and I just thought the writing was incredible. I loved it. I thought the script really jumped out at me. I thought it was really funny and then really touching. It kind of had all these levels of, strong writing, very clear, strong characters. It really moved me. I read it. I found it so touching. I mean, just reading the script, it just kind of took my breath away, and I really cried. And I called Chris so quickly after, and I said I would love to do this movie, and I just felt so fortunate.
Let's talk a little bit about your character for people who haven't seen the movie. Who is she?
Her name is Joanne Mulcahy, and she's a mom. She loves being a mother. She has three children. Her son is trying to be a comedy writer in New York City. He's just broken up with his boyfriend, but he hasn't told me that. He's keeping that from me. I have been recently diagnosed with cancer. So he moves home to Sacramento, his more conservative town, to take care of me, his dying mother. And she is just kind of fighting for her life. Can't believe this is happening. She's young. She's in her 40s. She's just like, I can't believe this is happening. And she's very close to her son. And, she feels bad that he has to come home to take care of her. She doesn't want him to feel responsible, but she's also excited that he's home, and it's nice that she gets to spend time with him. And basically, it's just how the family deals with this tough time, and I think Chris has always said that it's not always just sad. There's all these different things that happen. It can be funny at times, sad, frustrating. She goes through all these emotions because her life is slipping away. And she knows it, and she's coming to terms with that. So it was just a really meaty role, and she's a strong woman, and she's a funny storyteller. She's funny and strong. She's kind of badass, and you see her losing her ability to even like tell a funny story because her voice is going, and it was just so touching. One of my favorite scenes is the scene where she goes back to her school and she sees all the teachers she used to teach with. And you see her earlier in the movie telling this funny story about one of her students. And as she starts to go downhill in her health, she can't even talk that much anymore. So she's not as much of who she used to be. She's slipping away, and it's really touching and really sad. It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Right, and that brings up a point of one of the things that the movie does really well is it charts the progression of your character's illness. Right.
Yeah.
So did you do any kind of research into people with cancer to get that right, to make it authentic?
I did do research, and also I lost a really close mom friend recently to breast cancer, and she was young, like Joanne, same age, mid-40s, my friend Laura Shanahan. And my dad also died of prostate cancer. He was 72 when he died, much different than a woman so much younger. But I would go to, Cedars with her when she was getting chemo. I went through the whole thing with her. She's a really close friend of mine. Her son and my son are still very close. So I really saw everything she went through when she would be on the chemo, off the chemo, surgery, doctor's appointments, blood tests. I went through the same thing with a young mother, and really seeing how so much of her life was like doctor's appointments. And, so it was interesting being offered this role after, I saw her die. I was just like, oh my God, it was just like, so that really helped going through that with her. I could certainly use some of that. And then my dad went through the same thing. So, sometimes when they go off chemo, they look so much better. It's the chemo that can make them sick. And then Chris really guided me through it. And then just in general, I'm really interested in science and cancer research. And I like to watch PBS specials about cancer. And I'm very interested in science, medicine, reading about all that stuff. So I think I've always naturally for years been interested in that. Yeah.
And in reading the script, you brought up the fact that she's strong, she's funny. What were some of those qualities that jumped out to you from the script when you were trying to prepare the character?
Some of the qualities that jumped out at me were how she feels kind of in between her husband and her son. She's married, they're Catholics, they're conservative. Her husband hasn't accepted her son's homosexuality and the fact that he has a boyfriend. He won't walk up to his apartment. And she's dedicated to her husband, but she's really emotionally close to her son. So she feels in between both of them. And you wonder, had she stayed married, would she have eventually well, I mean, this is my take, but I felt that she was in between both of them and struggling. And she's also fighting for her life. And she's like frustrated with her husband because she came to accept it. And she apologizes to her son. I'm sorry I was so hard on you when you came out. And he forgives her. But the husband is still behind her. He's still stuck in his conservative values. And he says, I'll debate you anytime about, the fact that you're gay. And he says, it's not a debate, which is like a beautiful line. And I think that I love that it shows how frustrated she gets with the husband, but yet he's helping her too. He helps her. He does nice things. She's dying. He's good to her. He helps her while she's dying. So people are complicated. It's never black or white. I loved that. I loved Chris's ability to gently set up things that sometimes some writers can be heavy-handed at, like the way that he's looking for his birch tree moment with his best friend, and his best friend talks about played by John Early, how his mom died, and he wants that birch tree moment. He doesn't get it. And the thing with the sisters, how he's always too busy to hang out with his sisters, was set up so delicately and gently, not heavily, that by the end it kind of creeps up on you where he does get his birch tree moment when she says these profound things about, I'm worried you'll forget about me, and look in the faces of your sisters and you'll see my face. And it kind of like wallops you as a reader and as an audience member. And I loved her precision with that. When she was dying, she was like, do this, do that. She's like Emily Dickinson. She says the most beautiful, clear things that people often do in death. So her strength is what grabbed at me, and how her family is everything to her, that she would do anything. And she wants to give him advice and tell him these things before she dies, and give her fight till the very end. I deeply, deeply related to the material. Also, having lost my mom at a young age, and how mothers will do anything for their family, for their kids. My heart like burst into pieces reading it. I just was deeply affected by it and really related to the material.
Absolutely, yeah. And that birch tree moment you're talking about, just to clarify, I mean, that's a scene where his friend is saying that his mother told him, whenever you look at a birch tree, because I really love birch trees, think of me.
Yeah.
And it is a powerful moment when you say, if you ever miss me, look at your sisters, because I see myself in each of you.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's ever lost a parent can really relate to that moment.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the movie does,
it's so funny. Like, I lost my mom when I was little, and it's so funny. I gave a picture of myself, and I have kind of a gummy smile. And I remember somebody said, "Oh, you'll never make it in show business with that gummy smile. Like, look at her." But I was like, it's so sweet too, because in that photograph, I look like my mother, Peggy Shannon. And I mean, not to be like, cheesy or overly sentimental, but I just thought about my mom, Chris's mom, all these moms, parents that go through this, lost families. Like, I just thought about everything, and I just really wanted to like serve the material. And I knew what a great script it was. And as an actress, I've never done a scene where I'm so weakened. It was so new to me to be doing a scene, that last scene with Jesse Plemons, where I can't speak and I'm so weak and I'm leaning on him. I was like, God, how is this going to work? I hope this will be effective. I've never done anything where I'm so, that close to death. Like, here's death, here's me. And I worried about that scene, and I'm so happy that it did translate and that people could hear it and that it could still move people, because it was like one of the quietest things I've ever done in my whole acting career. So it was really challenging that way, and I feel so happy that people could hear me and relate to what the character was saying, her last words of advice to her son.
Well, how did you prepare for that? What did you do to get into that mindset?
For that scene in particular?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think I thought about, my dad and love a lot, and my own mother and Chris's mom. I kind of really combine a lot of things. And she feels embarrassed too, because people saw her kind of weak, and she used to be so lively, and now she's come from just did that big group scene where she does a conference call at the wedding, and she feels confused because she's, you know, on painkillers and morphine and stuff to make her not in pain physically, and she feels kind of out of it, and she's embarrassed because she slips, so she feels embarrassed that her son saw her fall, you know, and but he's so close and so accepting. So in all honesty, like, Jesse's such a strong actor that he's so amazing. He's just like the greatest. And I really just tried to be there in the moment with Jesse and feel love, like, in the moment. Like, I think you have to just try. Laura Dern said this to me once during Enlighten. I think she's such an amazing actress. I go, what is your secret? She goes, you know, really, you just have to be in the moment. So I really was trying to just be in the moment and feel how much love I felt for my son, and be in the moment and think about what you would say to your kids if you had you know, if you did have to give advice, you know, what would you say? It's just so, you become suddenly so clear, you know, because it's you don't have any time. So you're like, do this, do that. My dad was the exact same way. He gave us so much advice on his deathbed. Molly, do this. Mary, you do this. And don't forget about that, and do that. And then once they've said that, they can kind of let go. But it's just so touching.
And one of the things that the movie does well is balancing comedy and pathos. I mean, from the very first scene, and I don't want to give anything away, but it strikes that balance really well. As an actor, how do you balance between comedy and pathos, you know?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think I always consider myself like a dramatic comedian. So even when I did do stuff that was, you know, Saturday Night Live, Mary Catherine Gallagher, whatever, I really would always play the emotional truth of the character. So in my heart, it was very dramatic. Like, I was like, what does she want? What does she want more than anything? She wants a kiss, or she wants to be Maria in West Side Story. She wants to be the star of the play. It was always dramatic to me, even though it's a comic character. So they're close together for me. I went to NYU drama school, and then I got into comedy. But I think my comedic characters were still very dramatic and was very serious. And I never liked making fun of the characters. I always thought, what do they want? Even when it was a silly character. I mean, some not as much as others, but certainly Mary Catherine Gallagher almost seems like drama to me, emotionally. So I think it's to me, they are kind of close together. And but I think comedy, you really have to let yourself go and be childlike and free. Like the scene when she smokes pot and she's like, oh, live your life. And she's like, we're stoned. You have to be free enough as a performer to let yourself go, and not, it's almost like you're letting the child part of yourself be silly and free. That's how I would think of as comedy. Whereas, so you have to really let yourself go, and as opposed to using the more adult part of your brain when you're in a scene where you're telling people what to do. Or so yeah, they do feel different. I think you really have to let yourself go, like that pot scene. So I tried to mix the two together, and I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, I think it all. When you say playing the truth and the emotion of it, I think that's really the key to it. What you're talking about there. You brought up Saturday Night Live, and I wanted to ask you about that because you came to prominence on Saturday Night Live during one of their golden eras. Great cast, great writers. What did that give you that I guess carried over into your work now?
I think it really, I like that question. It was really like a writing boot camp. You really have to write on the show to get yourself on air. It's different than just being cast in a television show like Will and Grace, where they're writing your part, or Seinfeld, where, you know, here's your part, this is what you do. Saturday Night Live, you're competing with 17 other cast members for a spot on the show, so you have to write your way in. You have to think of ideas to get in. So it reminds me of like a comedy, like a comedy university where it's the hardest, it's the most exhilarating, you're live performing, but it is really like a roller coaster. You're competing with yourself. I mean, people are very supportive, but you really have to think of your own ideas, you know. And I did come in with lots of characters that I'd done in my stage show, but I think I had to figure out, how do you get those characters on air? And so you get together with a writer and talk about your characters and write it up. So it gave me great appreciation for writing. and really valuing that. I'm always looking at stuff like more like a writer, like, oh, this is fantastic writing. How easy is this? The writing's already there. And really knowing when you can, because we wrote so much, I know, oh, would you mind if I just massage that a little and make it more natural? And you really are writing stuff, then going out and performing it, and you're knowing really quickly that joke worked, that didn't work, add that, cut that. So you get very thrifty with looking at a scene and being like, you know, that doesn't really work. Do we really have to have that? And then knowing when it's really well done, you're like, this is fantastic. I don't need to change anything. So I have so much respect for writing, I think. Mm-hmm. And really not taking that for granted, because I know how hard it is, and I respect writers so much. You know, I think I'm different than the average actor in that I just think that is so hard, and I have so much respect for good writing and people that are able to do that really well. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Right, right. It also brought you your first of 2 Emmy nominations. Your second one was for Enlightened. Us being an awards website, what does that kind of recognition mean for you in your career?
It's so, it means so much. I mean, I try not to be result oriented because I think it's not good to get caught up in that. But I really appreciate it. I'm one of those people who really can appreciate, like if there's talk about that, I'm like, that's so nice. That's so valuable in business, and I really appreciate that. And I got so excited. And also when I got nominated for an Emmy for Saturday Night Live, that was when it was much harder. There wasn't at that time, the category was more competitive. Now they have a special category for that. So but at the time, I think I was nominated opposite, like, I forget who the people were, but it was like a big variety category with men, women. It was like Eddie Izzard, David Letterman. It was like all variety. So it was harder. And I really appreciate it. I remember I did a handstand in my apartment in New York. I was like, I got nominated for an Emmy. It was so exciting because I don't usually get included in that kind of thing. I never pay attention to that. I don't know anything about that. I'm not really involved in that. So when it happened, I just felt really excited, really just enjoying it. And I think for independent movies, awards attention is good because it makes people see the movies more. So it's a great business thing if you can get that for these little movies that are made for no money, that don't have the backing of a big studio for, you know, advertising. And it's really good when those movies get acclaim like that, because then more people get to see those small independent movies. And for television, it was just such an honor, because at SNL, I think there was a period where the women weren't as strong, and then me, Sherry, and Anna came, and really things like just ramped up, and I was so proud to be a part of that. So it was a really big deal for the show, big deal for Lauren. It was just so exciting, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So people who have seen this movie have been really deeply affected by it and moved by it. And I'm just thinking to myself, one of the most raw and emotional moments I can remember from the movie was when you're in that restaurant and you take your wig off. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it feels as if you're saying to the audience, this is what cancer is. You know, it's unglamorous. This is the honest truth about it. And you're forced to deal with that in the movie. And I think by doing that, you've sort of given a face to that, you know, to that disease, a humanity to it. What do you hope people get when they see this film?
That's such a great. Yeah, people will take away from that too. I hope people admire her bravery, and I think the movie's real. It's very real, and I think the whole reason I wanted to become an actress was not, I think people can get offline when they make it too much about themselves. Like, the whole reason I liked it was like doing something where people could forget their troubles, or, you know, like even doing comedy, like how you make people feel really good. Like, ultimately, if I become too, like, thinking about myself too much, I think, oh, the reason I do this is because it's so great to, like, make people forget it, like, forget your troubles, come on, get happy. Or if you could for a moment, like, forget about things, and then you experience things through the character. It's why I wanted to be an actress in the first place, that you can, like, make them go through their own grief in the movie and think of their own stories and kind of grieve in their own way through the characters on screen. Or laughing is like such good medicine when you make people laugh, and people come up to you, they're like, you made me so happy, and they want to hug you. I'm like, thank you. Like, I feel like I was cut out for show business because I'm an outgoing person, and it means so much to me. And I love that I can, make people think about their own loss and kind of quietly think about their own grief, like in other people. The way I would see it is that you think about your own life and what you've been through with your own parents, and that you can look through that and you grieve your own stuff through watching the characters, and it brings up your own emotions, and it's so beautiful and sad. So I love that people can do that through the movie. And Chris and I have said that we didn't realize, we were like, so many people come up to us after and then share their own experiences of grief, loss, what families go through with us. And we didn't realize we'd get such an onslaught of people telling us their own stories. And it's so touching, And I guess what else would I want people to think of? That scene that you asked me about is, again, I think she has to be so strong and so tough. And she acts like a baby in that scene. She's like, I hate this stupid wig. She's like a little girl, like, I don't want to do that. She had to be so strong. And then she's like, in the same scene where she's like, I don't want to feel like a robot. I hate this stupid thing. She's like a child. Like, no, no, no. She has to be so strong for everybody. She's this statesman. She's the force. She's the center of the family. She is the everything. And I love that she lets go like a little girl and just screams and kicks her feet and hides and goes, I hate this dumb wig. I look like a dead person, like it's so fun to play because she's tired and she wants to be a baby. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's okay. So I think I hope people admire her bravery.
Absolutely. Molly, Shannon, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, and so sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you. I really enjoyed the questions.
Oh, not at all. Thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, Zach.